All right, so today we're going to add on to what we did yesterday. This will be very short. We're going to keep dividing decimals. It's day 2, but we're going to look at a more than one decimal shift. So our first example is 0.35, which is 35 hundredths, divided by 0.04, which is 4 hundredths. So we're going to divide these two numbers. The first question is, the first one goes in the house. You got to make sure the first one gets into the house. So this is how you want to have it set up in your division house. Then you want to ask yourself the same questions that you were asking yourself yesterday. The divisor needs to be whole, and that is not a whole number. The divisor is the outside the box number. So when the divisor is not whole, you need to make it whole. So we're going to change this 0.04 into just a 4. When we do that, now this is what's different from yesterday. Yesterday we would only shift one time, but here you can see that I actually have to shift it 2 times, once past the 0 and another time past the 4. So that's a 2 decimal shift, which is really times 100. I've made it 100 times bigger. So just like yesterday, however you change it on the outside, you have to change it on the dividend, the inside number. So that 35 also needs to be changed by the same factor of 100. So I'm going to shift the decimal 2 places there also, and then I'm going to rewrite it as 35. Now I left the 0 in front of the 3. You don't have to do that. I like to do it just because it shows the exact same digits, and I can see that the decimal is now 2 places over from where it started. Then don't forget to put your decimal on the roof. That's where it's going to go in your answer. And I can tell here that since this is an odd number, I'm going to go past that decimal with this 4. So then you are simply going to start dividing. That's where you just start divide. 4 goes into 35 8 times, because 8 times 4 is 32, which is as close as I can get. When I subtract, I get a 3, and then I can add my 0 after that decimal point. So I'll bring down a 0, and then 4 can go into 37 times to give me 28. And then 30 minus 28 is 2. And then I'll bring down my next 0. And 4 will terminate here because 4 goes into 20 exactly 5 times. And there will be nothing left over. So 8.75 is my final answer there. So that's the first example. The only thing different from yesterday is that 2 decimal shift instead of just a 1 decimal shift. So here's example 2. You might want to pause it and try it and see if you can do it yourself, and then watch the video to see if you got it correct. Remember, the first one goes into the house, so the 0.516 is in the house, 2 hundredths is out of the house. We're going to look at our divisor. It's got to be a whole number. Is it whole? No. So we're going to make it into a whole number by multiplying it times, or well, we're going to make it 2, but that's a 2 decimal shift, which is times 100. I had to move the decimal again 2 times because it's 0.02, not just 0.2. So here's the tricky part. You got to change the dividend the exact same factor of 100, which is times 100, which is a 2 decimal hop, just like I did a 2 decimal hop on the outside. So if I look at that, that's going to put it in between the 1 and the 6, once past the 5 and then again past the 1. So the inside number is going to change to 51.6. Again, I left the 0 there, but you can see how it's 2 places over from where it started. You have to change the inside number the exact same way that you change that outside number. Then, of course, don't forget to make sure that the decimal goes on the roof of the house right above where it is now that it's been moved. It has to happen after the move. And then you're good to go. Once it's set up, then you can keep dividing just like we did yesterday. 2 can't go into 0, obviously. You don't even have to have that 0 there, but 2 can go into 5 twice to give me 4. And then 5 minus 4 is 1, and then I'll bring down my 1. 2 can go into 11 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. When I subtract, I get 1, and then I'll bring down my 6. and 2 goes into 6 evenly 8 times. 2 times 8 is 16, and that will terminate. So 25.8 is my final answer. Okay? And the last one for today is 14.4 divided by 0.03. This is a good one. Again, why don't you pause the video, try it on your own, and then unpause and watch to see if you have it correct. So remember, the first number goes in the house. As always, that outside divisor is not whole. It's a 2 decimal shift because I can see that there is a 0.3 there, but I'm going to change it to be 3. That's going to be my whole number. And I did that again by doing a 2 decimal shift, which is 100 times bigger, times 100. So I need to make the 14.4 100 times bigger. The dividend has to change by the same factor. Now you can see that when you move a 2 decimal shift there, you have to add a 0, which is the same thing that happened if the number was whole. There was a couple people that had questions on that yesterday where you have a whole number, and you just have to add zeros if you're at the end of the whole numbers. So when I move it once past that 4, then I have to move it again past something, so you add a 0. And that inside number is now 1,440. Then you got to make sure that the decimal goes in the decimal spot, because you got to make sure you fill it up to that decimal spot. And you also, just in case you have to go past that number, but I don't think that's the case here. Let's find out. So just start dividing. 3 can't go into 1, but it can go into 14 because 3 times 4 is 12. So that's what I'm going to do. 4 times 3 is 12. I'll subtract and get 2. Bring down my 4. 3 goes into 24 evenly. That's 8 times. And that's 24. Now it looks like I'm done, but if you notice there's that empty spot above that 0, and that has to be filled in because you can see where my decimal point is. I haven't filled in all the spots all the way to the decimal. So I need to put in another 0 there. You can think about it as like 3 can't go into 0. So it's 0. But it's 480. It's not 48. And I know that because I had to fill in all of the spots to the end. So that's it for today. Hopefully this was easy to understand. It's the same thing we did yesterday, except now there's a 2 decimal hop instead of just a 1 decimal hop.